Definitely can. You can still hear us?
Oh, we're live? I think we're good.
We're good. Check.
Brian, are you there?
Brian,
We can't
good?
hear you. Okay, now we can.
You can't hear me? I can hear
Yeah,
you guys.
now we can.
Yeah.
All right, we're
I don't know if you
gonna.
were talking to Brian or me.
No, we can hear you.
You're good, Chad. You're good.
Technical difficulties. Love it. All right, here we go.
All right, we're gonna start at the 40-second mark. What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Come On Ref. I'm your host, and today I'm joined with two others. First, we're here with
Aiden. What's up, everybody?
And then we also have a special guest joining us today.
I'm Chad. What's going on, everybody?
Yeah, and so we got a good show for you guys today. We got some interesting topics. We're going to do a little recap of what happened last weekend in the first round of the playoffs. Saw a lot of crazy matchups and some games a lot of people might have not expected, and then go over a little of what Ohio State's new team would look like next year as we recently C.J. Stroud declared for the draft, so we'll have a new quarterback coming in. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, let's start off with what happened last weekend, all the wild card games, the crazy endings, the upsets we saw, and everything overall. So, I mean, we could start off with the Jaguars game coming back from 27 down. I mean, that was something no one expected. I mean, no one expected them to win in general. And to come back from 27 down, that was the last thing I would have expected from Trevor Lawrence or that team in general.
Yeah, crazy game.
Yeah.
27-0 at the end of the first half. You're thinking the game's over. Just run the clock out, bleed it out. The rest of the game, you think you'll get out of there. But that's not what the Chargers did. They decided to keep throwing the ball. I mean, what Herbert ended up with 50 attempts. So that's a little crazy to me that you didn't try to run the ball more. Eckler finished with like 11 carries. Defense didn't show up in the second half. Joey Bosa losing his cool cost his team a 2-point conversion late in that game, so they could kick the game-winning field goal. Just a crazy game. A lot of guts by Trevor Lawrence, especially after throwing 4 picks in the first half, coming back out. What do you think, Chad?
Like you said, a lot of guts from Trevor Lawrence. I mean, at one point, I think he had more passes completed to one player from the Chargers than he had, passes completed to his own teammates.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that second half was crazy. I think you saw. I don't know if you guys saw. Someone made a 1.4. I mean, it was a sure thing. Like to this point, someone made a $1.4 million bet. High risk, low reward. You're not going to get a huge payoff, but it's a sure $11,000-$15,000 coming back your way. I mean, that's a good return on your investment. It's fine. It didn't work out that way. Trevor Lawrence had other plans. I think it shows you another thing. It's not always easy. We talk about Urban Meyer and the struggles that he had there last year with Lawrence and basically that same roster. It's not easy to transition from college to the pros. Pro football is a completely different game. Like we saw just all last weekend. I mean, the crazy things that happened in every game. I mean, it's just they're two completely different. It's the same sport, but they're two completely different games.
Yes,
it's kind of the takeaway I had. That's the takeaway I ended up with.
Yeah, no, it definitely surprised me a lot. I mean, the thing I wonder though, I want to know what you guys think of it too. Is was this game like more impressive for the Jaguars, or did this like just show like how bad the Chargers really are? Because I feel like, yeah, like they came back from 27 down, so that's a crazy comeback, and you got to put together a crazy run to get that. So, but at the same time, I feel like it shows just how bad the Chargers really were because, like you said, Trevor Lawrence had 4 interceptions, and when does a quarterback ever throw 4 interceptions and still win the game?
I think he was the first in postseason history to do
that. Like that's so. I don't know if, to be impressed with the Jaguars or just like, wow, the Chargers are really that bad. Because not only were you up 27-0, but the other quarterback had 4 interceptions. So, like, there's no way in the world you should have lost that game. I mean, the coaching had to be absolutely terrible. And as you saw now, was it the head coach or the offensive coordinator that got fired for them?
Offensive coordinator. Lombardi, yeah. I agree with the firing, too. How can you throw a ball 50 times in the game you're up 27-0 at halftime?
Yeah.
Can't do that. You got to run the football.
That was my question, too. I mean, Brady threw the ball 66 times in that game against Dallas, but, I mean, they got into such a huge hole. I mean, I know he's
Going,
40
yeah,
plus years old, but that's acceptable. Yeah, to throw the ball 50 times in a game where you were up 27 to nothing at halftime. I mean, just simple ball
yeah,
control, clock management wins that game.
yeah.
Yes.
I
That's it.
mean, you had to like to go into halftime to lose that game. You literally had to do literally everything possible wrong to
Yeah.
let them back in the game.
Yeah.
You're up 4 touchdowns.
Yes.
You had to go, or 4 scores. I guess it had to be 4 touchdowns, but uh, you had to do everything possible wrong to let them back in there. I mean, their
Completely.
quarterback was down in dumps. He threw 4 interceptions already. He doesn't have any type of confidence at that point. Your team's completely shut them down. So to let them do that in just one half is just it blows me away. And then to end up kicking the game-winning field goal, like, I mean, honestly, at that point, like, your coaches definitely need fired. Your team needs talked to. I mean, that is the
Yeah.
worst possible way
Yep.
to end your season.
Terrible.
Like, I'd rather lose by a close game than, well, I guess they did lose a close game, but I'd rather lose it being close the whole time than blow a 27-0 lead. To go out with that being the last taste in your mouth as a player and even as one of their fans is like, that has to just feel absolutely terrible. I know how I
Yeah.
felt after we blew that game to the Jets. Now, if that would happen in the playoffs and they had an even bigger lead than we did on the Jets earlier in the season, I mean, I would have just, oh my.
Why do you have to bring that back up?
Because it just reminded me of it. And man, it was just, I just remember feeling so terrible after that Jets game and be like, I can't believe we just did that. So for this to happen in the playoffs to a team and it being an even bigger lead, it just, wow.
Yeah. Terrible.
Maybe that's the silver lining to being Browns fans. Our losses we're conditioned for those losses. We expect,
Right.
like I said, we expect a 2-5 start, 1-4, 2-7, whatever, and then you win a few, but it's never really, it's never really dire like that. I mean, to blow that game, I mean that did take a massive meltdown. Obviously, Jacksonville did some things right,
Yeah.
clearly, and I don't know if you saw Peyton Manning. We were talking about the changes made at halftime in that game, but NFL halftimes are so short. If
Oh
you've
yeah.
ever watched a college football game, it's like you can walk away. You can almost go to the grocery store and come back, and it's the third quarter might just be starting up. You might see the opening kickoff for the second half. NFL halftimes are really quick, and Peyton and Eli were talking about it. I mean, you have time to go in there and maybe eat a couple oranges, go to the bathroom, and then you're back out on the field warming up. So, it kind of debunks the whole Jacksonville went in at halftime and made a bunch of changes. I think what you had was a team just they went in and they looked at each other. Maybe there were some tough conversations in that locker room at that halftime. I mean, they came out fired up in the second half, and I think the
Yep.
Chargers might have felt comfortable to the point where they said we have this wrapped up. I mean, it's 27-0. Their quarterback can't complete a pass to anybody on their team. Um, we've got this game wrapped up, and I think that mindset is dangerous in the NFL. I mean, you see so much parity in the NFL. This has happened before. Playoff games, Super
Right.
Bowls. I mean, you've seen teams down big and they come back. It's almost like the NBA. The NBA is such a game of runs. Like the NFL is becoming a game of runs. Because I think the parity, and B, like I said, with that parity, your window is so small. So I
Yeah.
know the Chargers are feeling pretty bad. And I think what Ben said, I'd rather just get blown out. I'd rather lose a game 65-7 than
Completely.
be up 27-0 and have that. I mean, one step closer to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
That's a
who knows if
really
you ever
good.
get there again? You just don't know in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I seen what Peyton Manning said too, and I like when I first seen what he said that like I figured they probably weren't making a ton of changes, but it surprised me that like they said they didn't make nothing. But then I also
yeah,
seen a former someone who I forgot his name, but he was a former NFL player and he was a defensive player, and he's commented on that post and he said he said the defense definitely. He said when he was playing the defense, he used to always make adjustments at halftime for quarterbacks
yeah.
like Peyton Manning. He was like, we always had to make adjustments for quarterbacks like you and all. So I wonder, like, if that's more of like a player type of thing. Like, if you're a player like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and all that, are you really like at that point you have all the talent? Like, is there really much more you need to do than just get locked in
Yeah.
and complete your passes? I feel like from a defensive standpoint, like they might be like, okay, so they're targeting this, so why don't we try and run this type of defense? I don't think they obviously do a whole new game plan at halftime, but I feel like they definitely talk about it of what they seen at halftime, what they seen that first half, what they're liking, and what they might try and run more in the second half. I don't. To me, obviously, I'm not in the NFL locker room, but I feel like there's no way they just don't make any type of adjustments,
Right.
unless you're like a player, a Hall of Fame type player, because at that point, like you got the talent. I think it honestly just depends on the type of player and the team and all that. Like I don't think Tom Brady's
Yeah.
going in there and they're coaching him up and all that.
Right.
I think it just
Right.
depends on the team and player and all that.
And maybe it was just, especially if for the Jags offense and Trevor Lawrence, maybe it was just a mental adjustment.
Yeah.
Hey, got to
Yeah.
shake that one off and go back out in the second
Yeah, I
half.
think at that point there's no way. I don't think there's no way they were like making tons of adjustments at that point because
Right.
you're 4 interceptions in. I think there's not really much you could
No.
tell a guy who's thrown
Right.
4 interceptions at halftime except just at that point. If I'm the coach, I'm telling him like, look, like start off with maybe a short pass, like try
Right.
and
Get
find a
rhythm.
rhythm or
Yeah.
something. And
Yeah.
at that point, I'm just telling him like try and find his rhythm and all that because there's really not much you can change.
And
after
at that point, you're down 27-0 with 4 picks.
Yeah.
What do you got to lose?
Yeah,
Go out
that-
there and
Nothing to
swing.
lose. Go spin it.
Yeah, so you can play
Yeah.
loose.
maybe
And
only
as soon as that game got tight, Chargers started tightening up,
yeah.
missing throws, dropping balls that they hadn't dropped all game. You know, and the
You
other
know
teams
how that
like
is,
they
though,
got
that-
all the momentum. They're in Jacksonville.
Yeah, that
everybody's Duvaling everywhere. You know, going crazy. It's Florida. You know
Yeah.
how crazy people get in Florida. So
Yes,
I
I
mean,
do.
it had to be going crazy there. So it's just a big one, man.
I'm surprised we didn't see more Florida Man articles after that comeback. But
Crazy.
yeah, I think that to take it one step further, I think it's easier for the defense to go in at halftime and make some adjustments. You can move some personnel
For sure.
around. You can move individual people. You can make some adjustments with the offense. I mean, your offense kind of is what it is.
Right.
It's not like you can't really change too many formations. I mean, you could. Um, you've always got you could go to more or less motion depending on if you think they're a man to man, whatever. You can do little things, but those changes are probably more easily made, honestly, on the field. And I think that they're more easily made on the fly. I think with defense, you can really go in and say, you can look at 2 or 3 minutes of film and say, okay, here are the 5 or 6 plays that really killed us. Let's move a safety up. Let's move a linebacker over. Let's pinch the defensive line, whatever it is. That you can make those small adjustments, and I think those can make a difference. But offensively, sometimes I think it's just a timing issue. And like you said, just short pass to find his rhythm. Maybe that settles him down a little bit. But with the offense, I think it's more timing. With defense, I think it is, scheme and personnel placement and things like that. But you know how hard it is to get timing going at offense. I mean, it just sometimes you don't have it, and
Yeah.
for whatever reason, sometimes you do. So
Yeah. And to even prove like how I feel like I feel like they definitely make some, like you said, at least a little adjustments because like you see
Mhm.
quarterbacks, even this isn't even at halftime, but on the sideline after every drive on the iPad, watching those things, looking for something they could have had, and so they're
Yep.
making adjustments already. So I find it hard to believe that they don't make that Peyton Manning never made any adjustments during the game. He stuck
Yeah.
with the game plan they gave him and never changed nothing.
But with
Well,
Peyton
during the
Manning,
game, for sure. Yeah, for sure during the
Yeah.
game, because I think, like I said, if something's not working my first 2 possessions, if I'm an offensive coordinator or head coach, I'm not going to wait till we go into the locker room at halftime to fix it.
Yeah.
Especially in the playoffs, you're going to try to. I mean, it's all hands on deck. You're going to do everything you can to get it going. So maybe maybe that's the reason for that statement. I'm sure they've made changes,
Yeah.
but I think, like I said, offensively, I think they're made more on the fly, on the field, from the booth, um, in the moment.
Yeah, because they got the guys in the booth on the headsets and all that,
Right.
so they're definitely telling them what they can see and all that. But
For
transition to another game now. I mean, you had the Bengals and the Ravens. The Ravens they
that
played.
was maybe the worst clock management in a game I've ever seen.
Yeah,
in my life.
they during the game. I think the Ravens. I think that team wise they didn't play great, but I think Tyler Huntley himself, like during the game, surprised a lot of people because I think a lot of people he played honestly almost. Obviously, he doesn't have the mobility skills as Lamar, but I think passing wise, he probably did as good as Lamar would have did in that game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
running wise, Lamar is obviously a lot better. But I think he definitely shocked a lot of people with his performance in that game. I still don't think he's your franchise quarterback,
No
and
chance.
it's looking more and more likely like Lamar's going to be gone next year, which I think is a big mistake by them. Because I definitely don't think Tyler Huntley's a franchise quarterback, but I think he surprised a lot of people with how well he performed from like a performance you would expect out of him, not compared to like a
Right.
starting quarterback in the league already. I think he definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he did as much as he could for them to win that game.
Yeah. That was a good game
Yeah.
by him for the most part. I mean, except for the trying to reach over the goal line from like 2
Yeah.
yards out, which I don't
Yeah.
know about that one. But I mostly put this on the coaches. I mean, you left timeouts in your pocket for the most part, especially going down the field on the last drive. 20-some seconds left, you're going to call a run, wide zone, so there's a better chance of a tackle getting a holding penalty because he's got to hold that guy longer. On the Huntley sneak where he did try to reach over the goal line, J.K. Dobbins has been playing fantastic that game, and you're not going to give him a touch at the goal line, see if he can get in there first.
Yeah.
I don't like that call either. I just
Yeah.
thought towards the end of that game, the coaching staff, and it's been a problem with Greg Roman the past 3 years with his play calling. He's not been good.
Yeah.
He has the most bland passing game in the NFL, like from a scheme standpoint. They run straight flood concepts or just straight drop back play action 2-man routes. They do nothing special offensively except the run game is really good because they have the most athletic quarterback since Michael Vick, with J.K. Dobbins, the second round pick in the backfield, and Gus Edwards, who's a good back. I mean, and Mark Andrews that they got in the 4th round. They got lucky. I mean, he does nothing special offensively, especially in he might be holding quarterbacks back as passers instead of helping them out, which is bad.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think now I'm going to caution you from saying the Ravens got lucky in the draft. I don't think maybe
No, that's true.
it's crazy that both of these teams are in the AFC North, but I don't think there are two teams better than the Steelers and the Ravens at drafting people at actually getting value all the way through the draft and ending up with contributors. I mean, starters. I mean, formidable players in this league in the 4th and 5th round. That's impressive.
Completely right.
That's impressive.
They draft well. I can't even argue that. But yeah,
the Browns draft well on paper, but somehow maybe it's a development issue. Maybe it's not a draft issue at all. Maybe it's a development issue.
But I got I'm concerned for the Bengals going into next week, especially if both their tackles are still out next week, because Joey B had about 1 second to throw the whole game because there was so much pressure. I mean, they're a downfield passing attack with Jamar and T. Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd's a kind of underneath guy. Hayden Hurst has been really good for them down the field as a tight end this year.
Yeah.
But if those guys can't block it up at all, I mean, Baltimore has mostly older, washed-up defensive ends. Pierre-Paul, Houston, these dudes are mid-30s guys. And you're going to play the Bills, who have a top 5 defense. That's going to be tough.
It's a different matchup.
I still kind of wonder about how the NFL worked that one out. Because if the Bengals beat the Bills in that game, obviously there's more important things like DeMar Hamlin's health. Obviously, that's the most important thing.
Sure.
But if the Bengals win that game in a perfect world where nobody gets hurt and nobody has to be taken to the hospital, this is a home game for the Bengals. But then they made the Chiefs, if they were the number 1 seed, it's a neutral site game between them and the Bills. So why isn't the Bengals-Bills neutral site? Because they didn't get to finish that game. So
it's a great question.
I kind of don't like that. I think that's a bad move by the NFL, but obviously everybody loves watching Bills fans. So
sure,
they're going to turn that game on, especially if it's in Buffalo.
Nothing quite like Bills Mafia, and you always have the opportunity maybe to see a snow game in Buffalo too. You can get some crazy weather there, so that's fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Joe Burrow though, I think there's a lot of people who I think at their last playoffs year run with the Bengals, I don't think anyone will ever count out the Bengals now going into matches. But I'm still they were my pick to win it all. Going into the playoffs, that's why I picked to win it all. But it's just because after what I seen last year I won't be surprised if they lose to the Bills, just because it's the Bills. The Bills, Chiefs, or Bengals, it's a coin flip who could make
Right.
the Super Bowl. But I'm still gonna go with them to win, only because like Joe Burrow, like his poise and stuff going into like these games and the late game drives, it seems like he literally never gets rattled. And yeah, Josh Allen's an amazing quarterback too and all that, but I don't. It's just something about Joe Burrow where it just seems like he can always find a way to make that
Yep.
throw or make that play, no matter it could be 4th and 15 game on the line, and he's still just poised. And I haven't seen anyone like that seems so poised since like a Tom Brady type player when it comes to like mentality wise and all that. It just seems like he never gets rattled in the game.
Yeah.
He's getting pressure on his face every time, and yet he could just still sit back there and try and figure out what to do, the right throws to make, and all that. And so that's why I don't know. I can never count him out. He just reminds me of like a Tom Brady type player, someone you can't count him out of a game.
Right.
He's always. I think he can always put together a comeback. So
I agree.
I definitely
Yeah.
I think it's a coin flip for who wins this game, but I'm still gonna pick the Bengals. But I think it's probably gonna be a coin flip for who wins this. Like it could really go either way.
Yeah. I agree with you to an extent on Joe Burrow. It's hard to. I know you're not comparing him to Tom Brady. You're just the
Yeah,
mentality, the mental toughness, and people get fired up. They hear Tom Brady. You can't compare anyone to Tom Brady. He's the goat, and he is. Okay, that's
yeah,
fine. I know he's got 300 Super Bowl titles. That's great. But yeah, I mean, there's something to be said, about a quarterback who's back there and just doesn't panic. I mean, he
yeah,
never looks like the moment's never too big for Burrow. And I
yeah.
think that's been since he was young. I watched him play in that state championship game in high school, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw this. He had a pass at the goal line that was batted down. He actually caught the deflection and scored a touchdown on it. I thought when I saw that, then I mean I was watching the game live. I thought this guy is a baller, man. He is an absolute gamer.
Yeah.
Um, and those guys just always seem to be in the right place at the right time. They always seem to make that play, make the throw, avoid the rush, whatever it is. He's just got that X factor that sometimes you can't quite put your finger. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the NFL. He can make all the throws, but he
Right.
doesn't have the biggest arm in the NFL. He's not the most athletic guy. He's not Justin Fields out here running all over the place, but he just seems to get it done. And those guys to me are invaluable because you never know
I
really how do you stop a guy like that on defense? You don't. There's not one way that he gets it done. He just gets it done.
Right.
So that's tough.
I agree with you, Ben. I think the Bengals are going to win because I think Josh Allen's great, but there's moments where it looks like Josh Allen just loses his mind playing football.
Yeah, he
Like-
definitely gets flustered a
Like
lot.
there's like just plays you look at and you're just wondering what were you thinking there. Like he has the most red zone interceptions in the NFL, tied for the second most in the league interception wise in general. He just has moments where it's just like, why are you trying to play hero ball right now? You're up 10 against the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson. Just check it
Brett
down.
Favre. It's Brett Favre
check
all
it-
over again.
Yeah,
And so there's people talk about don't blink in the big moments, right? Don't blink. I never see Mahomes and Burrow blink in big moments. I see Allen blink sometimes. There's games where he's on and he's like that Chiefs Bills game was just back and forth, like dudes just like
Yeah.
at their best, right? But there's other times like if Tua plays in that Dolphins game, the Bills are probably sitting at home right now because of
Yeah,
how bad
maybe.
Josh Allen, threw 2 interceptions, had a fumble that went to the house. I mean, he did not play good in that game. But we'll have to see. But I would take the Bengals, and it's still a coin flip.
yeah.
It's 2 of the best teams in the NFL. I mean, three of the probably 5 best teams in the NFL are in the AFC. Even 3 of the best 4, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a close one, but the Bengals and Josh Allen has yet to win that big game in his career.
No.
He's never made it to the Super Bowl yet, and it seems like every time when the moment's the biggest, he folds and he can never get it done. So he has yet to do that, and he's in his 5th, 6th year now,
Yeah.
somewhere around there. And I mean, he's still early in his career. Just
Right.
now going to be entering his prime and stuff, but it just seems like he can never. He's a top tier quarterback, but it just seems like when the moment's the biggest, he can never get it done.
Right.
And
Yeah,
of course,
he reminds me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, of course, he's always going against another top tier quarterback. He's always
Yeah.
been back when Patrick Mahomes and all that. And I mean, it's almost impossible to stop him when he gets rolling. But it just seems like that's why I think Joe Burrow will be able to get it done with the Bengals because it seems like when the lights are the brightest, the Bills can never find a way.
Yeah. He almost reminds me. I'm going to make a local comparison. I'm going to do cross sports, so it's going to get real confusing. But he almost reminds me of like the way it feels to watch Josh Naylor play. Naylor he's an emotional guy. He's passionate. You love the dude, man. You want him on your team. You want him in those positions, but you don't always feel like Naylor's going to get that big hit, in the big spot. He definitely has, but he's also a little raw too, and that's
Yeah.
kind of how I feel about Josh Allen. When Josh Allen goes off script, his rawness really comes out.
Yeah.
When Mahomes goes off script, for some reason, it's like his pure ball talent comes out, man. And when Burrow goes off script, just gamer. You just see the gamer in him. But when Allen goes off script, it's a little bit more wild. It's a little bit more unpredictable. He has a tendency to start overthrowing, which is pretty dangerous in the NFL when you got guys in the right position all the time
Right.
on defense. You throw and you got a safety sitting back there. It's an easy pick. But I agree with you. I see Allen do that, but it just reminds me of that guy he's got all the skills. He's got all the passion, all the emotion, everything you want in a player, but he's just a little bit raw and unrefined still.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Because like Naylor's like a good hitter, terrible against
Yeah.
lefties. So like the comparison would be there's two lefties in the AFC, Burrow and Mahomes. He doesn't play as
Yeah.
good against those guys. So,
Yeah.
but what do you guys think about another game, Vikings Giants? Obviously, Danny Dimes came out there trying to get paid. Playing the best game of his life.
He still had a
It just-
chip on his shoulder from Baker, man.
Oh yeah, it just goes to show how important coaching is. Dable can really coach.
Can.
Damn
Now.
near the same roster since last year when they, had a top 10 pick, the number 4 pick, I believe they picked Thibodeau, and they brought in Martindale as their defensive coordinator and Dable as their head coach, and it just changed everything for them. I mean,
Yeah.
the game plan was
Immediately.
great, a lot of open guys, and then Daniel Jones wasn't trying to force anything. If it wasn't there, I'll tuck it and run for 10.
Yeah.
Vanilla Vic.
Is that the player or is that coaching? I mean, where do you think that comes from?
I think it's a lot of like that right there where he's not trying to force anything.
Mhm.
First, second read, all right, time to get out. I think that's more Dable. I mean, he did the same thing with Allen too.
Yeah.
If you think about it really helped him
Sure.
out. Yeah, I think that's more coaching because that's just because he wasn't doing that his first couple of years.
Yeah.
That's not who Daniel Jones was. He was gonna try to fit it in. He was trying to be Eli Manning.
Right.
I feel like he's just being more of himself this year. And that's big. And having Saquon back is obviously big. That dude's just a dynamic weapon in general.
He really is. Yeah. When
Um,
he's on the field, they're a different team.
Yeah. Kind of disappointing for the Vikings, though. Especially, you're paying what? Kirk Cousins $40 million guaranteed a year. I don't know how you throw a check down to T.J. Hawkinson when you have one of, if not the best receiver in the NFL, Justin Jefferson. I don't know how you don't give him a chance on 4th and 8. But that's just me.
If it was third down, I get it. But you gotta throw to the line to get. I mean, you have to get the ball there.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah, the Vikings, they definitely disappointed. Giants definitely surprised me. I don't think the Giants are for real yet, though. Until I see them, but make a deep playoff run. But I just still don't think they're for real, just because I think the NFC is just so weak compared to these top tier AFC teams. I think that those top 3 AFC teams are far better than a lot of people might say, oh, no, the 49ers and all that. But I don't think these NFC teams this year can compete with those top 3 AFC teams. And, I mean, obviously anything can happen in the Super Bowl and all that. But I don't know. I think the 49ers might be the closest thing right now to the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Bengals. But I don't think this year that the NFC, to me, this year was extremely weak compared to the AFC.
I agree. I would probably take the Eagles over the 49ers because I want to see Brock Purdy play a good defense where he actually has to work to make throws and everything's not wide open. Because I still have a good amount of questions about Brock in general. I will like to see him against the Cowboys, Well, Micah Parsons and Dexter Lawrence getting after him. Not Dexter Lawrence, sorry.
I still think I don't know. I get like the Eagles had a great record and all that this year, but I'm not completely sold on them yet either. Just only because like they played AFC teams, but again they're from the NFC, so they play heavy NFC side. But like the NFC in general was just like the Eagles did win big games this year, but like this was the weakest I've seen the NFC in years. Like it looked like two different leagues compared to the AFC, NFC. I mean, you had the NFC was so bad that you had a team like the Buccaneers with a losing record still make the playoffs.
Right.
Like that should not be able to happen.
I think I might have lost you guys on your end. While you get back up, I will say this: you shouldn't have an 8-9 team, winning a division in the NFL. That should never really happen. But it is what it is, and it does happen. I wanted to talk about this too. While you guys are over there, I'm sure you're scrambling. I don't even know if you can hear me, but it's fine. I want to bring up something about the Cowboys too going forward. It's a team we haven't really talked about. If you're a Cowboys fan, should you be concerned about your kicker at this point? I mean, obviously missing 4 extra points in a 31-14 game is a completely different story than if they have a game that goes down to the wire. Do you feel comfortable throwing him out there to try to kick a 45 or 50-yard field goal? That's a major concern. And as far as the NFC being weaker, I think you're right. I think it's the eye test for me. It just didn't look as strong. You could get the SEC argument. I know there are probably fans of NFC teams that would say, well, they're so good they beat each other up. I mean, you can't have a team go 15-2 or 14-3 in the NFC because they're so evenly matched and they're so good. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it's like I said, it's the eye test for me. It's when you watch the games. Do they look like they can make a run? A lot of NFC teams don't. I think I agree with you on the Niners. And Brock Purdy, right now he's a game manager to me. If I were Hugh Jackson, I'd say, trust me, he can get it done. And he looks like he can get it done. But like you said, Ben, against a good defense, can he get it done? And we'll see. I mean, we'll see eventually. He's going to play against a good defense here. But
hey, sorry, we had some technical difficulties.
I kept it going, man. I kept it going. But like I was saying, Ben, you brought up the NFC. I don't know if you guys can hear me at all.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just talking about the NFC and passing the eye test for me, and they just didn't do it. SEC fans always want to say Vanderbilt could come to the Big Ten and go 10-2 and win the West or whatever.
Right.
But because they're so tough, all the teams are so tough, they beat each other up, they cannibalize each other to a certain extent. But that's not what I saw from the NFC teams this year. I just saw a bunch of average teams, really.
No, completely agree.
Yeah, they definitely didn't look good this year. I want to end this topic real fast because we're running out of time here. I want to go to the Ohio State Death Trap, but one quick thing I did want to have us to say something about was the way Tom Brady looked in that last game. To me, this was the first time, like this season was the first season you really started to see his age. And I, from the start of the game, said the Buccaneers weren't going to win just because of the way I seen Tom Brady play this season. I get he's still Tom Brady and you can't cut him out, but Tom Brady looked absolutely terrible in that last game.
Completely agree.
And I mean, that red zone interception was a terrible throw. He wasn't making the right decisions. And I get he had pressure in his face all night, and they don't have a running game at all. But man, he looked terrible.
He just looked inaccurate, man.
Yeah. You got to wonder if it's the personal stuff off the field that affected him this year,
Yeah, he definitely looked a lot.
Last thing I got to say about the NFL is I'm a Jalen Hurts truther through and through, been since his rookie year. So I'm riding that to the end. That's all I got to say.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Jalen Hurts yet either. But we can't get
I posed the question, too. While you guys were gone, I posed this question. I think it's important to talk about. If you're a Cowboys fan, are you concerned with special teams right now? Should you be concerned?
Completely.
Oh, I think, but see,
how do you go into a game and if it comes down to it, you're down 2 points, get to a 45-yard field goal? How do you feel comfortable kicking that right now?
That's exactly what I said when you guys were gone. Are you comfortable throwing them out there for a 45 or 50-yard field goal? Because
I don't know.
You can't be. Not after what I
He was great all season, though. This was really the first time where you ever seen him look bad. During the season, he played great for them.
He
But kicking is all a
Mhm.
mental game. So I think you have to, if it's at the start of the game, I think you got to throw him out there to try and see if he could get his confidence back. But
Right.
during the season, he played great for them.
I
So
agree.
it was
He
a
did,
shot.
and I have a theory on that. I don't know if you guys caught the article this week. The NFL, they've asked officials to keep an eye on. I guess some teams are using like a little, I don't know, piece of
A T.
plastic, something flat
A
that they're
T.
throwing down. I don't know. They said some teams have been caught. I don't think they actually mentioned who,
Wow.
but they're using a little, like a flat, hard surface to throw down on the hold to kick off of. And it's been kind of a conspiracy theory over the last couple of weeks in the NFL. And I wonder if the Cowboys are one of those teams. And
Yeah.
like you said, kicking is a major, major mental thing. I mean, all of a sudden you don't have your crutch.
Yeah.
I wonder if that played into it all. I wonder if that was a factor
Really?
there. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I just wonder if that was a factor.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see. But now to switch things over, do a little prediction of what we think will happen with Ohio State. You got a lot of their guys coming back, but the most important position, it's going to be a new guy stepping in those shoes. He's got those are big shoes to fill out there, what CJ Stroud did for us. Uh,
Yes, they are.
who will get that new QB spot? I think it's definitely between Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. Devin Brown was a true freshman last year. Kyle McCord's been on our roster for a while, and he was a high-rated prospect coming out of high school too. And he lost a
Was.
job to C.J. Stroud. Him and
Right.
C.J. Stroud competed for, and C.J. Stroud won. And we seen what C.J. Stroud was able to do. Now the question would be, is it going to be Devin Brown or Kyle McCord? And honestly, I heard Devin Brown looked really good during practices last season. I heard he looked really good. So I think he might win the job over Kyle McCord. But I think we talked about this last time too. If that happens, I still just, part of me still feels bad for Kyle McCord just because,
Yeah.
like, man, he sat on our roster for so long. So if he loses a job again, obviously next year he'll have to wait till next year to go transfer because he'll compete for the job this year, and if he loses,
Well,
he can't. I don't think you
if
can
he can,
transfer.
if he thinks he loses the job in this spring, like this spring,
Mhm.
camp, he can leave and be somewhere else for summer. So he can be there for fall camp. But he would
But
have
I don't.
he would
think,
have to have like
yeah.
like a true feeling of like, hey, like you're losing this job, you might want to get out of here now.
I think it'll probably honestly be close, kind of. I think it'll go up until like when they play their scrimmages,
Yeah.
because that's what happened with C.J. Stroud, and
Right.
it came down to the scrimmages, and this reminds me of a lot of those years. Like they didn't know who was going to be the quarterback. I remember Ryan Day said, like, both these quarterbacks don't have any experience at all. He said
Right.
their lack of experience is surprising to him, and honestly, when he was saying that, when CJ Stroud, this was before anyone knew shit. I mean, you knew of
Oh, yeah.
CJ Stroud, but no one knew his name now. Uh, he said, like, it worried me if we were gonna have another great quarterback, because Ryan Day said himself before that, he's like, both these quarterbacks have
Yeah,
not
I
great
agree.
experience, and turns out CJ Stroud is looking like a top 5 pick now. So you
Right.
could hope that's what happens with the next one, and I think it will. I think both these quarterbacks are good quarterbacks, and I think both of them can be starters. Just only one of them can be on our team.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's been described a lot by reporters and beat guys, Ohio State beat writers and things like that. Is McCord's more of a Dwayne Haskins type quarterback, stay in the pocket, not much mobility. I think
He
with
can
the
move if he has to, but yeah.
I think what the Georgia game showed, and Devin Brown's a better athlete than Kyle McCord. I think what the Georgia game showed is when you have a quarterback who can use his athleticism to get out of the pocket and make plays, it changes a game
Yes.
completely. So I would say Devin Brown would be my pick. I don't know if that's going to be the pick. I wouldn't make a projection on that. And I've heard that Devin Brown is more of a gamer than Kyle McCord. Like, he's just a guy in the locker room. Everybody likes that guy. But it'll be interesting, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Coming to throw to Marvin Harrison Jr., Buka, Julian Fleming, and Cade Stover can't be too bad, I think.
Right.
You'll be doing that, especially with Brandon Ennis coming in. I think he'll get some playing time in a rotation too.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people are wondering will be, like who will be that next step up receiver next year. Because I mean, well, you still got Ibuka and Harrison, but I don't know. I feel like, and what was that dude? Xavier Johnson. He's at third, but
Yeah.
he's good. But I don't know. I feel like there might be one more
I mean,
who
Ennis
comes
is a
into
five-star guy. You know?
the rotation. But the thing with him is, I don't know if he'll get playing time or not next year. I think he definitely, for sure, he might. I think there's definitely a chance he will. But Ohio State's so stacked on the receiver side. We had 5-star guys on the
Yeah.
sideline last year, so one of them might
I
get their
agree.
turn.
I agree.
But I think Ennis, I heard he's definitely he's looking like a generational talent. So I don't know if he'll get it or if he'll get it his sophomore year.
Right.
Yeah, I think he'll for sure get it his sophomore year.
Oh,
But
no doubt.
he'll definitely get redshirted next year if he
Um,
doesn't. But I don't know if he'll get it, but I know there's some 5-star guys we still had on the sideline last year. So one of them
No
might
doubt.
finally get their time to step up. But if Ennis comes in and balls out during camp and all that, he'll definitely get a spot. I mean, wasn't it Garrett Wilson? Didn't he get some playing time his true freshman year?
Oh, he
What-
started to play towards the end of the
Yeah,
year
wasn't I? Because I still remember that catch he had in the playoffs.
against Clemson where he
Yeah,
jumps
when-
straight up over dude.
And he was a true freshman then. So
Yep.
our state's not afraid to play true freshman if you ball out. I mean, Travion Henderson was a true freshman when he won the starting job. The one corner who didn't look the greatest this year, but
Denzel Burke.
his true freshman year, he started. I mean, so if you ball out, they'll play you.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't know if he could, but when it comes to being receivers, that's the most position we have. So it definitely will be hard to come in as a true freshman and start.
What do you think about the quarterback battle, Chad?
Well, I'm kind of with you, Aiden. I like Devin Brown, and not that I'm in practice every day. I don't get to see these guys throw it. I
Right.
don't know who looks more comfortable in the offense, but I will say this: whoever comes in, hopefully, is going to have the help of Travion Henderson. And I want to apologize to any of our viewers. Also, you probably see I'm in bed, man. I had surgery yesterday, so much like Travion Henderson, I'm recovering from surgery.
Yeah.
But I think he'll be healthy. That helps, obviously.
Place the
Having a
win.
healthy backfield is going to help. But my concern is the offensive line. They swung and missed in the transfer portal on some tackles. Obviously, that shows you that they felt there was a need.
Completely.
Guys can develop between now and then. Sure, they can. But I feel like when you're a little bit uncomfortable with your offensive line now, there's typically a reason for that. And I think that is going to, that makes the call for a little bit more of a mobile quarterback, because you can't have
I agree.
Devin McCord back there standing in the pocket. I've heard that, like I said, he has a little bit of mobility. He can avoid the rush. But the word on Devin Brown is he can get out of the pocket and get you 10 or 15 down the field if he needs to with his legs. That's going to be so important with, if you've got tackles on both sides of the line, letting guys go. I mean, McCord's going to get eaten up back there.
Yeah.
If he's got limited mobility. So
Yeah. I was just thinking, Matthew Jones coming back is big because he can play. He's a swing guy. He can play center or guard. I think he'll probably end up playing center.
Yeah.
I think Donovan Jackson at left guard, most likely, and play tackle. Right guard will be probably Bamahi. He's a top 125 guy, I believe. Josh Fryer will probably be our starting right tackle. I'm pretty confident in Josh Fryer, but left
Me
tackle,
too.
I'm a little worried about. I think a sleeper for that position is Tegra Shabola. He was a freshman this year, big guy, 6'7", I believe, 350, 34-inch arms.
Yeah.
Length. He was a freshman last year. He was the number 104 recruit. So
he's got pretty good feet too.
Yeah. Dang near top 100 guy. So more talented than the other tackle prospect we got that's on the roster right now. I think he gets a shot. Chrisman probably gets a shot.
They're going to have to give everybody. I think it's going to be an open audition. I think everybody's going to get a shot.
Audition. We'll see if they try to bring somebody in when the portal opens up again.
Yeah.
If of a depth piece or more of, compete for the starting job type of guy. But we'll see what happens. I've been thinking about it a lot. I kind of like Tegra. But we'll have to see what happens. You got to show you can play there. Left tackle is the most important on the line. You're protecting the blind side. So you got to
absolutely.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens. But we're running long here, so we'll wrap up soon. But one last quick thing I did want to touch on that happened recently is the Browns. They got their new defensive coordinator. So I just want to see what you guys thought on him. I mean, I think it surprised a lot of people. It wasn't shocking because I heard him and Brian Flores were the top two candidates, so
Right.
I heard it was going to be one of them. But it seemed like a lot of people thought it was going to end up being Brian Flores, but ultimately the Browns ended up not choosing him and went with Jim Schwartz. But he's a guy who has a lot of experience as I think they said he's been in a coordinator for 14 years, or not, maybe not exactly a coordinator, but he's been on a team for, I think he has 14 years experience now. So obviously experience helps and all that. And I mean, I guess we'll have to see what happens. Me personally, I don't know a ton about him. I know he's he's been in the league for a while and all that. I believe he spent a lot of time with the Titans as their defensive coordinator. I think
Right.
it was Titans and Colts. But I heard like he seems like he's a good guy. He knows what he's talking about, and hopefully can change that culture in the locker room.
Yeah, they need to change in the locker room. Um, but sometimes I worry that that comes from the very top down. I like Schwartz. Personally, I think I would have preferred Flores, but I don't know. I wasn't in the interviews. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know, I don't
I
see what those guys have to say, so I don't know all that. But yeah, the culture I think on that defense and really on the entire team. I mean, they need an overhaul to the entire 53 man roster. I don't
yeah.
mean players. I mean attitudes. They need
Yeah.
they need guys that are going to buy in on something. And maybe Joe Woods was kind of the catalyst for that. I mean, maybe guys got sick of playing on that defense. I don't know. I'm not sure what it was, but
yeah. It seems like Jim Schwartz can be that guy. I mean,
yeah,
only time will tell at this point.
Right.
But it
yeah,
seems like from stuff I've seen about him recently in articles and all that, I mean, it doesn't seem like anyone said it was a bad hire.
I agree.
I think
yeah,
it's like people were saying we couldn't go wrong with him or Flores was
yeah.
what it was like. So it doesn't seem like people are too mad about it. So I guess
Yeah.
we'll just have to see what
Yeah.
happens at this point with
I
it.
yeah. I think Flores is still in the running for some head coaching jobs also.
Yeah.
Slowed it down for him. Didn't want to wait and then be left with nobody.
Yep.
Short, he's coached some good defenses in the past,
Yeah, he
but
has.
he also runs a lot of stuff that relies on your defensive line to win, especially in the passing game, without any much blitzes. So I hope that's a sign that we're going to invest in some more defensive linemen, some defensive tackles.
You would
But
think.
time will tell. I agree with
Yeah.
culture from the top down. We'll just have to see it, man.
I think
Yep.
you.
Yeah.
There's gotta be there's something Andrew Barry and them like with him over Flores, and I trust Andrew Barry. I think he's a good GM. I trust. I mean, yeah, we're still not in the best position, but I like some of the moves he's made. I mean, I still have trust in him. I don't think
Yeah.
he's on the hot seat yet,
No,
but
the Browns aren't where they are for a lack of talent. I mean,
yeah.
I think Barry's done a great job of building that team. It's just it's execution on the field. I mean, he has nothing to do with
So
that.
I think there's something he had to see in him and Kevin Stefanski and then there's something they had to see that they wanted to go with him over
Yep.
Flores. We don't know
Yeah.
what that is, but hopefully we'll find that out during the season. Uh, and I don't know. It'll definitely be interesting to see what happens. But we'll have
Yeah.
to wrap up with that. As always, it was a good show. We got a lot of exciting things coming up. I mean, football season's coming to an end, but still got basketball season starting to get into
Yeah.
the most important parts of the season. So
Ricky Rubio's coming back for the Cavs soon.
Oh, he's back,
he's
baby.
back
Well,
already.
that's true. He's back. Yeah, but I mean, back in
yeah.
that full role. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like he's
yeah.
getting eased in, but we'll see how that is down the stretch. We'll see.
Definitely got a lot of exciting things still going on, but
Yeah.
it's a good show. We appreciate you coming on with us, and
Sir.
we
Appreciate you
will.
having me.
Yeah, no
Sir.
problem. Anytime. We will see all you guys next week
See y'all,
on
man.
Wednesday.
See you guys later.
Till next time, guys.
Till next time.